Hello guys, I am back from my whole rest week, and today we're going to be talking about a brand new series called What If Belle was Genji and Hanzo's reincarnations, or just Genji and Hanzo for short. So yeah, recently I've been planning on maybe, I originally wanted this series to be called What If Belle had the powers of all of the Blackwatch members, but at the time, I just, kind of became lazy and decided, nah, I'm just gonna go for Genji and Hanzo. And also at that time, I started becoming a big fan of Ruby, and also going back into Naruto. And yeah, and also I also recently been told, well, I'm going back to school and things of that sort, so, oh boy. Yeah. So, today we're going to be talking about this brand new series called What If Belle was the reincarnation of Genji and Hanzo. So yeah, let's begin, shall we? So, we go to the Overwatch universe. So, currently, Genji and Hanzo are currently at their deathbeds. They're pretty old, and they recently got married. I'm not going to tell you who are the, lucky girls, but for Genji, well, it's obviously Mercy. I mean, it's just super obvious. So, after the events of Overwatch 2, during their fight between, Blackwatch, they sort of became, pretty old and basically, well, on their deathbed. So, Genji and Hanzo are currently together, in their freaking deathbed and basically ask each other this. So, brother, said Genji, as Hanzo would say, yes. Genji, as he would say this. We certainly saved the world. As he would say this. Yeah, it seemed so. As he would say, I mean, me and Mercy got together, but I felt just a bit empty. As he would say this. What do you mean? As he would say, well, I mean, it's not all that bad, but still, it just feels empty. As he would say, I guess so. I mean, I'm no longer a criminal in the eyes of the people anymore, but still. As both of them would just basically look up at the ceiling. As one person would basically arrive there, or more specifically, a few people, the members of Overwatch, completely, old and stuff, and some, children of the Overwatch members, including grandchildren, as one of them specifically, Genji's child, and also, Genji's, wife, aka Mercy, basically come around and basically ask if, Genji's okay. Genji would basically tell them that he was okay, even though he's about to die. And as for, Hanzo, one of the, children of, Genji would say, hey, Uncle Hanzo, are you, as he would say this, yeah, we're fine. As to it here, the, wait for a second, the monitor, or more specifically, the heart, whatever you want to call it, basically starts to beep a little bit, slowly, as it flatlines, as all of the members of Overwatch, including Mercy and her children, would basically start to cry, knowing that both of them are finally gone. So, let's go back to Genji and Hanzo right now. So, Genji and Hanzo are currently in the void. As Genji would say this, where are we? As Hanzo would say this, is this heaven? As you would see a large, looming light, almost similar to a doorway, as they would basically start to float towards it. After floating for about maybe like an hour to them, and when they arrived at that place, they would basically go in. But when they opened their eyes, after being blinded by that large, looming light, they would wake up. In something, they would see that they're in a room. More specifically, a room that's resembling a log cabin. as a person would basically come towards them, or more specifically, wait for a second, arrives and basically, looks at Genji and Hanzo, as Hanzo would say this, "Where are we?" basically said in his mind, as, Genji would say this, "I don't know, brother, but wait, are we in the same body?" As he would say this, "It seems so." Wait, that means, as they would recognize that, their hands are a bit short, to say the least. As they would say, "Did we get reincarnated?" They would basically exclaim out loud, as one of them, specifically the man that's basically holding, both Genji and Hanzo's, body or vessel or whatever, basically says this, "Ah, hello there, my grandchild." As he would basically cuddle up the boy, as he would say this, "How about I call you," as he would basically, touches his, or basically holds on his, chin a little bit, as after about a minute, he would say, "How about Belle?" As he would basically look back at the unconscious bodies, or more specifically the dead bodies, of both Hanzo's and Genji's, father and, mother, or at least their new ones. As Hanzo and Genji would see, as they would say, What the hell happened?" As one of them would say this, specifically, Genji, "I don't know what's happening, but whatever it is, it's definitely not normal." As they would basically look back at the man, as he would say this, "Don't worry, kiddo, I'll protect you. Just call me Grandpa." He would basically say that, and we skip to about a few more years. So, a few years have gone by as Genji and Hanzo sort of became, somewhat, used to this world. It turns out that this world has magic. It has gods and monsters, which, let's just say, when Genji and Hanzo heard of this, let's just say they didn't believe it until they got attacked by a large-ass cat-like monster during their time in the forest. Yeah. So, Genji and Hanzo have been, training a little bit and found out that their new name is Belle Cornell, so they prefer to just be called that now. So, wait for a second. So, because of their brand new name and also their brand new look, which resembles, a mix of Genji, young Genji and, young Hanzo's hair. And one of his eyes, instead of being, red, resembles two colors, specifically blue and green. So, he's been, training in the forest by himself for a while now, and for their grandfather, which they just prefer to call him grandfather most of the time now, was curious about his training. And when he saw that he's basically training similar to a ninja and, using a bow and arrow, he thought, he's definitely going to become a great adventurer, just like his father and mother. He would basically think in his mind. So, as, Belle is basically, training through the forest and basically learning how to do their, signature techniques once again, specifically summoning those, that green-ass dragon and the two, blue dragons, which I'm not going to be pronouncing because I'm probably going to butcher it. So, yeah, I'm just going to call it, the, big-ass blue dragons. The big-ass dragon. God damn it. So, after a while of basically training, and also learning how to use magic, he was able to make a version of that technique. But except of using, instead of using, I can't remember the actual reason how they're able to basically do it, but I'm just gonna say holograms or whatever, or a blast. Instead of that, they use magic. So, they're able to basically create this type of technique, which allows them to basically summon an Asian type of dragon from both his bow and his sword. Which, after going to a blacksmith, he would basically order a specific type of sword, or swords in this case. A small, and, kodachi, which is basically a, short sword or short, katana, and a large katana, which resembles, Genji and, Genji swords. He also, made his own bow and several arrows, which are similar to, in game, or more specifically to Hanzo's, bow and arrows. Which, wait for a second. He's basically able to do that, scattering arrow thing, but except using magic. If you don't know what I mean, well, just imagine just like in game back in Overwatch 1, or the original Overwatch. He's also able to do the sonic arrow, which allows him to basically, track down enemies, and basically, hear them by sound, which, by the way, Bell, it basically has some pretty good hearing. Mostly because of after what happened last time. What do I mean? Well, one time when he was basically back at home, he was attacked by some, some wandering bandits, which just wanted to, get some stuff off, his grandpa. But after defeating them, thanks to the help of sound and basically, sneaking around basically like a ninja and defeating them with just a wooden fucking spoon. Yeah, he basically used a fucking spoon to battle them. Well, let's just say the bandits would basically run on off, like, their tails between their legs. Yeah. So, because of this, every single member of the village would basically consider him as basically like a national hero there. Even though Bell would basically, admit that he's not a hero, but really wants to become an adventurer, dude. Like, he really wants to become an adventurer. Mostly because Justin and Cannon would basically hear about the stories about, some of these heroes, which, when Hanzo and, Genji heard that there's a nation basically similar to Japan, or an Asian-like country, well, they're completely interested in it, especially because apparently ninjas also live there, which, if you don't know, Genji is supposedly a ninja. Yeah, I'm not trusting that. If you don't know, I watch, like, Gaijin Goomba, and let's just say I have this absolute hatred for Genji. At least back in the day. Because when I first saw Genji and I watched, like, Gaijin Goomba, I hated Genji because the idea that he's a ninja would just think in my mind, how is he a fucking ninja? He's basically the complete opposite. Oh my god. And then, it's even funnier. Back then, every time when I ask my brother that what is his favorite Overwatch character, he would always say, like, Genji, and I would always scream out, I need healing. Okay, anyway, so, after a while of basically, going around, the village, basically having some fun, even training, a few more years have gone by as Bell's grandfather would mysteriously die from a quote-unquote illness. Yeah, it's probably not an illness in my opinion, or at least in my theory, because after hearing about the whole, like, light novel thing, and also some light novel theories about, Danmachi, well, I'm starting to think that, that he's probably not dead, or at least in my theory-ass mind after watching, like, Bad Pat or something. So, yeah. So, after, hearing about the death of his grandfather, he would decide to move to go to Arario to become an adventurer. And so I'm probably going to be ending it off here because, I'm a bit tired at the time. So, actually no, why not? I'm going to make it a little bit longer. Yeah, why not? So, after Bell basically packs up all of his things, he would basically start to leave the village, and the village would basically, say goodbye to him. So, as he's basically going around, going through the forest, he would basically encounter a bunch of monsters. Bell would basically think in his mind, let's have some fun, shall we? And by the way now, during that time of training, both Hanzo and also, Genji would basically fuse their minds or souls, causing them to basically, become one person, in this case Bell. So, Bell is currently going to the forest, similar to like Genji, as he basically gets ready his arrows. A bunch of monsters, more specifically goblins, were basically, looking around the area, blocking the path, as he would say this. Well, let's have some fun, shall we? As he would basically cock his bow back, he would basically throw 3 arrows, as these 3 arrows would basically slam into all 3 of the, monsters. the goblins, or the monsters in this case, would basically disappear and basically turn into, monster cores. After grabbing them, he would say, well, that was easy. He would basically put it in his pocket, but when he was about to leave, he would get attacked from behind by something. He would basically move back in time before he gets slammed into the ground, as you would see a large ass monster resembling an ogre, as it roars at him, as it basically grabs his club and basically, gets ready to slam it into him once again. For Bell would basically, backhands the, that thing. So, Bell would basically grab his sword and basically does the technique. I'm not gonna say it because I'm probably gonna butcher it, so yeah, just imagine it just like in the, game, or in some of these sequences in, in the game or whatever. So, he would basically does, Genji's technique and basically summons in the blue dragon and basically slams it into the monster. The monster would get damaged, but doesn't, explode into, into a monster core at all. So, wait for a second. So, Bell would basically, block once again with his, sword, getting ready to, stab him with his, Kodachi, as he would basically, slice it across his knee, causing him to fall down and drop his weapon. So, after Bell does that, he would basically get ready his bow, as he would scream out the technique once again, summoning two large blue dragons that basically slam into the monster once again, and basically slamming him into a tree, impaling him into a large branch. After doing that, it would basically explode, turning into a large monster core. After grabbing the monster core, he would basically, put it on his, large ass pocket or whatever, as he would basically start to leave. So, after fighting that, monster, he would basically say this. Well, I'm starting to become hungry. So, Bell would basically decide to basically sit on a tree nearby and basically, grab some food. Mostly breads and some cheeses and some meats, which are mostly, cured. So, after, grabbing some of the meats, he would basically start to, chow down. After chowing down, he would basically say this. Not bad. He would basically grab some of the cheese and basically slaps it onto the meat. As he would basically start, chowing down once again, he would basically, finish up his meal as he would basically start to leave. But before he can leave, he feels something in the air. Something that's watching him. Before he can think, a large arrow basically coming towards him would basically come towards him. Bell would basically, dodge out of the way and basically look up in the, trees and sees another bandit. Or more specifically, a few bandits basically nearby. These bandits seem to be wearing, typical roguish outfits. And they seem to be wielding crossbows, as they would say this. Give us all of your damn phallus, or we won't kill you. Or, maybe we should just bring you into slavery because you look like that type of boy that you can easily be used for slavery or something of that sort. After he said that, Bell would basically be, be pissed off. I mean, it makes sense. So, Bell would basically dash towards them as he would basically slice through their, bodies without, any resistance. He would basically unsheath his, sword once again, as you would see a few more bandits coming out of the forest, wielding several weapons to swords, axes, and spears. He would basically defeat them without ease, using his sword as he would basically grab the leader, or the supposed leader, as he would say this. Hey, what are you doing? As you'd say this. Tell me, what are you doing here? As you'd say this. Why should I tell you then, kid? As you would say this. Very well then. As you would grab his Kodachi and basically start, slicing through his arm, getting ready to basically draw blood. As you would say this. Alright. As you would say this. Good. Now tell me. As you would grab his Kodachi and gets ready to, stab into his neck. As you would say this. We're from a camp. A camp. It's nearby. As you would say this. I see. As after Bell basically, puts him down, he would basically step on his neck and basically, snaps it. So, Bell would basically goes towards into the forest deeper as you would see a large camp. This camp is mostly filled with, some low-level bandits, and I mean a lot of girls in cages. Mostly, elves and, demi-humans, the ones that basically have, furry traits. I couldn't help myself. And, or should I just call them fonduses, because, I recently started getting into RWBY and stuff, and yeah. And also, do you remember my whole, idea of making a RWBY what if? Maybe, I'm probably gonna make it. Maybe, after this, after these what ifs. And it's just a maybe. So, Belle would basically look at all of the girls seem to be chained, as Belle would basically start to become a little bit pissed off. Because, remember, he's fused with Genji and Hanzo, so they're pretty much pissed off at this because it reminds them of their whole, Yakuza past. Or more specifically, back when they were, still kids and seeing their father basically, importing kids to basically become slaves. So, Belle would basically grab his sword as he would basically say this. Well then, you chose your death. You chose your path then. You disgusting excuses for human beings! After screaming that out, everybody would basically look towards the tree as he would basically charge at, at all of the, low-level thugs. He would basically slice through them with ease as he would grab his bow and arrow and basically slam it into the, eyes of one of the watchtowers, or more specifically, the guard's watchtower, which, let's just say both of his eyes are gone thanks to the arrows, and he basically falls off, basically plunging to his death. So, after doing that, he would basically look at the, cages filled with so many, girls, or women in this case. He would basically, grab all of their, grab the locks and basically break them. They would basically start flooding out, and they would say thank you to Belle. Belle would basically say it's just, it's just the hero's job, as they would basically start to leave, except for one. This one seems to resemble a dog, I guess. She seems to have, wait for a second, she seems to have brownish hair and the same colored eyes as her hair. She seems to also have a dog-like tail and a dog-like, ears. As she would say this. Hey, can I ask you your name? I mean, you basically saved us. As Izuku would say this. Not Izuku, I meant Belle! God damn it. Okay, start the count. Alright, start the count, guys. Start the count for me to basically, in this series, count all of the times that I called, Belle instead of Belle, Izuku. So yeah, start the count, boys. Anyway, so, Belle would basically say, Belle Cornell, how about you? As she would say this. Oh, Lily Elias. As he would say this. Well then, Miss Elias, I should be going. As he would say, anyway, bye, and please be careful. As she would basically say goodbye, as she would say this. Thank you, my hero. She would basically, say that under her breath, as she basically says in her mind, that I hope to see you again. Maybe if we meet in Narario, maybe we can meet up again. Or maybe even join a familia, perhaps. So, Belle, after basically saving those hostages, would basically go back onto his trail to basically go towards Arario. But while during his travels, he would basically be a bit tired, and, recently he found a nearby village. So after arriving there, all of the people were basically staring at him, mostly because almost all of them are, either demi-humans, or, wait for a sec, or elves, or half-elves, or something of that sort. While Belle is basically looking around, he would basically go into a tavern, which, after going into the tavern, everybody is basically looking at him, mostly because he looks like this. They would see that he looks like this. Yeah, it's basically mostly based off, Genji, because why the fuck not? And I also recently found out that apparently, Genji and Hanzo were, combined, or used to be combined to be just one character, and that's how I got the inspiration for, this outfit. and also the reason why I decided to make this what if in the first place. So, Bell basically goes into the tavern as everybody's basically looking at him, mostly because of his, armor. Some of the guys there are mostly adventurers would basically start to say, "Whoa, who is this guy? He must be some sort of high-level adventurer or something." As one of them would say this. "Yeah, but he's still fucking short." As one of them would basically start to laugh as he would say this. "Yeah, he's probably pretty weak." As everybody would just see his weapons. As one of them, specifically a female adventurer, would say this. "I wonder if he's a noble," or as one of them would also say, "Yeah, I wonder if he's pretty rich. I mean, those weapons definitely look pretty exotic." As they would see his, his weird-ass bow, which seems to have no string. But in the photo right here, he's able to have a string thanks to, magic. So, Bell is basically sitting on the counter as he would ask for some ale and some food. So, after getting his order, he would basically take off his helmet as everybody would basically look that he's just a regular old human. As one of them would basically start to laugh because, I meant Bell! Because Bell is a human, so one of them would basically come up to him as he would say this. "Hey kid!" As he would basically look up as he would see the man. As he would say this. "I don't really like your kind here, mostly because you're weak. So you better get out of this town." As everybody would hear that, as, Bell would basically looks at him, as he would basically sigh, as he would basically grab his sword, as he would basically do that technique once again, and basically throw him out of the, establishment. Yeah, after seeing the large green dragon that basically come out of nowhere, well, everybody's basically running out of there. The bartender would basically say, "The hell did you do?" As he would say this. "Oh, that's just my skill." As he would basically, resheath his sword, as he would say this. "Thanks for the meal." As he would basically throw some valets down onto the counter, as he would say goodbye, as he would start to leave to go to, to a nearby, inn. So, after going into the inn, he would basically, start changing his clothes to more comfortable ones. More specifically, some pretty baggy, shirts and pants. After doing that, he would basically feel a little bit sleepy. As he would say, I guess it's time for me to get some sleep." So, Bell would basically fall asleep and would plan to go on forward towards, to Arario, because apparently this place is actually nearby Arario, maybe like a few more, kilometers there. So, yeah. So, I'm gonna be ending this episode right off here because, tired right now. So, yeah. So, I hope you liked the video, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you guys next time. Bye-bye!